Get cozy, because it's time for some more politically correct bedtime stories. Get cozy, put on your favorite jammies, get you some hot cocoa or some warm milk or a glass of wine, whatever makes you comfortable, and get nice and cozy, and we're going to continue and finish our politically correct bedtime stories. So this is the fourth video I've done like this. The first video we did Little Red Riding Hood, The Emperor's New Clothes, and The Three Little Pigs. The second video was Rumpelstiltskin, The Three Codependents Goats Gruff, and Rapunzel. And the third video was Cinderella, Goldilocks, and Snow White. Today we have Chicken Little, The Frog Prince, Jack and the Beanstalk, and the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Chicken Little. Chicken Little lived on a winding country lane surrounded by tall oak trees. It should be mentioned here that the name Little was a family name and not a derogatory, size-biased nickname. It was only by sheer coincidence that Chicken Little was also of shorter than average height. One day, Chicken Little was playing in the road when a gust of wind blew through the trees. An acorn was blown loose and hit Chicken Little squarely on the head. Now, while Chicken Little had a small brain in the physical sense, she used it to the best of her abilities. So when she screamed, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling," her conclusion was not wrong, or stupid, or silly, only logically under-enhanced. Chicken Little ran down the road until she came to the house of her neighbor, Henny Penny, who was tending her garden. This was a simple task since she didn't use any insecticide, herbicide, or fertilizer, and also permitted the native non-edible varieties of wildflower, sometimes branded weeds, to mingle with her food crops. So lost amid the foliage, Henny Penny heard Chicken Little's voice long before she saw her. "The sky is falling, the sky is falling." Henny Penny stuck her head out of her garden and said, "Chicken Little, why are you carrying on so?" Chicken Little said, "I was playing in the road when a huge chunk of the sky fell and landed on my head. See, here's the bump to prove it." "There's just one thing to do," said Henny Penny. "What's that?" said Chicken Little. "Sue the bastards," said Henny Penny. Chicken Little was puzzled. Sue for what? Personal injury, discrimination, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, tortuous interference, the tort of outrage. You name it, we'll sue for it. "Good gracious," said Chicken Little. "What will we get for all of that?" "We can get payment for pain and suffering, compensatory damage, punitive damages, disability and disfigurement, long-term care, mental anguish, impaired earning power, loss of esteem." "Person, oh person," said Chicken Little joyfully. "Who are we going to sue?" "Well, I don't think the sky per se is recognized as a suable entity by the state," said Henny Penny. "I guess we should find a lawyer and learn who is suable," said Chicken Little, her diminutive brain working overtime. "That's a good idea. And while we're there, I can ask whom to sue for these ridiculously bony legs of mine. They've caused me nothing but anguish and embarrassment my whole life, and I should be compensated somehow for all that." So they ran further down the road until they came to the house of their neighbor, Goosey Lucy. Goosey Lucy was busy teaching her canine animal companion to eat grass so she could avoid the guilty feelings that came with feeding the dog processed animal carcasses from a can. "The sky is falling, the sky is falling. Sue the bastards, sue the bastards." Goosey Lucy leaned over her fence and said, "Land sakes, why are you two carrying on so?" "I was playing in the road and a piece of sky fell on my head," explained Chicken Little. "So we're going to find a lawyer to tell us whom we can sue for both her injuries and for my bony legs." "Oh, good. Can I come and sue someone for my long gangly neck? You know, nothing really flatters it. So I am convinced there's a conspiracy within the fashion industry against long-necked waterfowl. So the three of them ran down the road looking for legal assistance. The sky is falling, the sky is falling. Sue the bastards, sue the bastards. Smash the conspiracy, smash the conspiracy. Farther down the road, they met Foxy Loxy, who was dressed in a blue suit and carried a briefcase. He held up a paw to halt the entourage. What are you three doing out here on this lovely day? Asked Foxy Loxy. We're looking for someone to sue, they shouted in unison. What are your grievances? Personal injury, discrimination, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, tortuous interference, the tort of outrage? Oh, yes, yes, the three said excitedly. All that and more. Well then, you're in luck, said Foxy Loxy. My caseload has just eased up, so I will be able to represent you in any and all lawsuits we can manage to bring. The trio cheered and flapped their wings. Chicken Little asked, but who are we going to sue? Without missing a beat, Foxy Loxy said, who aren't we going to sue? 3 hapless victims such as yourselves will be able to find more guilty parties than we can shake a right at. Now, let's all step into my office so we can discuss this further. Foxy Loxy walked over to a small black metal door that was on the side of a small hill nearby. Step right this way, he said as he lifted the latch, but the black door wouldn't open. Foxy Loxy tugged on it with one paw, then with both. It still wouldn't budge. He yanked and pulled violently, cursing the door, its mental abilities, and its sexual history. Finally, the door swung open and a huge ball of fire shot out. This was really the door to Foxy Loxy's oven. But unfortunately for him, the ball of fire engulfed his head, burned off every hair and whisker, and left him totally catatonic. Chicken Little, Henny Penny, and Goosey Lucy ran away, thankful that they had not been devoured. However, the family of Foxy Loxy caught up with them. In addition to suing the manufacturer of the oven door on behalf of Foxy Loxy, the family brought suit against the 3 above-named barnyard fowl, claiming entrapment, reckless endangerment, and fraud. The family sought payment for pain and suffering, compensatory damages, punitive damages, disability and disfigurement, long-term care, mental anguish, impaired earning power, loss of esteem, and the loss of a good dinner. The 3 birds later brought a countersuit, and they've all been battling in the court from that day to this. The end. It was ridiculous. Okay, the next story is The Frog Prince. Once there was a young princess who, when she grew tired of beating her head against the male power structure at her castle, would relax by walking into the woods and sitting beside a small pond. There she would amuse herself by tossing her favorite golden ball up and down and pondering the role of the eco-feminist warrior in her era. One day, while she was envisioning the utopia that her queendom could become if women were in the positions of power, she dropped the ball, which rolled into the pond. The pond was so deep and murky, she couldn't see where it had gone. She didn't cry, of course, but she made a mental note to be more careful next time. Suddenly, she heard a voice say, "I can get your ball for you, princess." She looked around and saw the head of a frog popping above the surface of the pond. "No, no," she said. "I would never enslave a member of another species to work for my selfish desires." The frog said, "Well, what if we make a deal on a contingency basis? I'll get your ball for you if you do me a favor in return." The princess gladly agreed to this most equitable agreement. The frog dived under the water and soon emerged with the golden ball in his mouth. He spit the ball on the shore and said, "Now that I've done you a favor, I'd like to explore your views on physical attraction between the species." The princess couldn't imagine what the frog was talking about. The frog continued, "You see, I'm not really a frog at all. I'm really a man, but an evil sorcerer has cast a spell on me. While my frog form is no better or worse, only different than my human form, I would so much like to be among people again. and the only thing that can break this spell is a kiss from a princess. The princess thought for a moment about whether a sexual harassment could take place between species, but her heart went out to the frog for his predicament. She bent down and kissed the frog on the forehead. Instantly, the frog grew and changed, and there, standing in the water where the frog had been, was a man in his golf shirt and loud plaid pants, middle-aged, vertically challenged, and losing a bit of his hair on top. The princess was taken aback. "I'm sorry if this sounds a little classist," she stammered, "but what I mean to say is, don't sorcerers usually cast their spells on princes?" "Ordinarily, yes," he said, "but this time the target was just an innocent businessman. You see, I'm a real estate developer, and the sorcerer thought I was cheating him in a property line dispute. So he invited me out for a round of golf, and I was just about to tee off. He transformed me. But my time as a frog wasn't wasted, you know. I've gotten to know every square inch of these woods, and I think it would be ideal for an office park / condo / resort complex. The location's great, and the numbers crunch perfectly. The bank wouldn't lend any money to a frog, but now that I'm in human form again, they'll be eating out of my hand. Oh, that will be sweet. And let me tell you, this is going to be a big project. Just drain the pond, cut down about 80% of the trees, get easements for..." The frog developer was cut short when the princess shoved her golden ball back into his mouth. She then pushed him back underwater and held him there until he stopped thrashing. As she walked back to the castle, she marveled at the number of good deeds that a person could do in just one morning. And while someone might have noticed that the frog was gone, no one ever missed the real estate developer. The end. What? Wow. Okay. The next story is Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, on a little farm, there lived a boy named Jack. He lived on the farm with his mother, and they were very excluded from the normal circles of economic activity. This cruel reality kept them in straits of direness until one day Jack's mother told him to take the family cow into town and sell it for as much as he could. Never mind the thousands of gallons of milk they had stolen from her. Never mind the hours of pleasure their bovine animal companion had provided. And forget about the manure they had appropriated for their garden. She was now just another piece of property to them. Jack, who didn't realize that non-human animals have as many rights as human animals, perhaps even more, did as his mother asked. On his way to town, Jack met an old magic vegetarian who warned Jack of the dangers of eating beef and dairy products. "Oh, I'm not going to eat this cow," said Jack. "I'm going to take her to town and sell her. But by doing that, you'll just perpetuate the cultural mythos of beef, ignoring the negative impact of the cattle industry on our ecology and the health and social problems that arise from meat consumption. But you look too simple to be able to make these connections, my boy. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll offer a trade of your cow for these 3 magic beans, which have as much protein as that entire cow, but none of the fat or sodium." Jack made the trade gladly and took the beans home to his mother. When he told her about the deal he had made, she grew very upset. She used to think her son was merely a conceptual rather than linear thinker, but now she was sure he was downright differently abled. She grabbed the 3 magic beans and threw them out the window in disgust. Later that day, she attended her first support group meeting with mothers of storybook children. The next morning, Jack stuck his head out the window to see if the sun had risen in the east again. He was beginning to see a pattern in this. But outside the window, the beans had grown into a huge stalk that reached through the clouds. Because he no longer had a cow to milk in the morning, Jack climbed the beanstalk into the sky. At the top, above the clouds, he found a huge castle. It was not only big, but it was built to larger than average scale, as if it were the home of someone who just happened to be a giant. Jack entered the castle and heard beautiful music wafting through the air. He followed this sound until he found its source, a golden harp that played music without being touched. Next to this self-actualized harp was a hen sitting on a pile of golden eggs. Now, the prospect of easy wealth and mindless entertainment appealed to Jack's Borgias sensibilities, so he picked up both the harp and the hen and started a run for the front door. Then he heard thundering footsteps and a booming voice that said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an English person. I'd like to learn about his culture and views on life and share my own perspectives in an open and generous way." Unfortunately, Jack was too crazed with greed to accept the giant's offer of a cultural interchange. It's only a trick, Jack thought. Besides, what's a giant doing with such fine, delicate things? He must have stolen them from somewhere else, so I have every right to take them. His frantic justifications, remarkable for someone with his overtaxed mental resources, revealed a terrible callousness to the giant's personal rights. Jack apparently was a complete sizist who thought that all giants were clumsy, knowledge impaired, and exploitable. When the giant saw Jack with the magic harp and the hen, he asked, "Why are you taking what belongs to me?" Jack knew he couldn't outrun the giant, so he had to think fast. He blurted out, "I'm not taking them, my friend. I'm merely placing them in my stewardship so that they can be properly managed and brought to their fullest potential. Pardon my bluntness, but you giants are too simple in the head and don't know how to manage your resources properly. I'm just looking out for your interests. You'll thank me for this later." Jack held his breath to see if the bluff would save his skin. The giant sighed heavily and said, "Yes, you are right. We giants do use our resources foolishly. Why, we can't even discover a new beanstalk before we get so excited and pick away at it so much that we pull the poor thing right out of the ground." Jack's heart sank. He turned and looked out the front door of the castle. Sure enough, the giant had destroyed his beanstalk. Jack grew frightened and cried, "Now I'm trapped here in the clouds with you forever." The giant said, "Don't worry, my little friend. We are strict vegetarians up here, and there are always plenty of beans to eat. And besides, you won't be alone. 13 other men of your size have already climbed up beanstalks to visit us and stayed." So Jack resigned himself to his fate as a member of the giant's cloud commune. He didn't miss his mother or their farm much, because up in the sky there was less work to do and more than enough to eat. And he gradually learned not to judge people based on their size ever again, except for those shorter than he. The end. Okay, and now for the final story of our politically correct bedtime stories. This one's called The Pied Piper of Hamlin. The picturesque little town of Hamlin had everything a community could wish for: non-polluting industries, effective mass transit, and a well-balanced ethno-religious diversity. In fact, the town leaders had managed to legislate or intimidate away every element that could keep the citizens from living a good and sensitive life. Every element, that is, except the trailer park. The trailer park on the edge of Hamlin was a civic embarrassment. Not only was it a terrible eyesore with its rusted pickup trucks and trash heaps in every backyard, within it dwelled some of the most unregenerate and irredeemable people you could ever imagine. Murderers of non-domestic animals, former clients of the correctional system, and off-road bikers. With their plastic daisy pinwheels, loud music, and drunken weekend brawls, they sent a shudder through every respectable person in town. One day, after a particularly riotous road rally through the trailer park, the town leaders had a meeting. After heated debate, they decided that somehow they had to eradicate the trailer park. But they were at a loss as to how to do it without ignoring or infringing upon the rights of the people who lived there. Finally, after even more oratory, they decided to let that be someone else's worry, since they were already so burdened with more important concerns, such as declining property values. So the town leaders decided to advertise for someone to solve their problems. Soon after the advertisement was sent out, a man appeared in town. He was very vertically gifted and of lower than average weight for his size. His clothes were worn in combinations never before seen or imagined, and his mannerisms and high-pitched voice were certainly unique. Although he looked like he came from some world other than, but certainly not unequal to, our own, he gained the trust of the desperate town leaders. "I will be able to rid your town of the trailer park dwellers," said the man of enhanced strangeness, "but you must promise to pay me 100 pieces of gold." The town leaders wanted this whole unpleasant business finished as soon as possible, so they readily assented. The sooner the trailer park was eliminated, the sooner they can revert to their open-minded, progressive selves. So the man of enhanced strangeness got down to work. He reached into his tattered knapsack and pulled out a sophisticated compact recording machine. The people around him looked on with interest as he inserted a few tapes, set some knobs, and checked the sound levels. Then he began mumbling into the built-in microphone. No one could hear exactly what he was saying, but the man seemed to be lacking in coherence. Abruptly, he stopped mumbling, stood up, and told the town leaders that he needed a truck with a public address system. The authorities scrambled after this strange request. They managed to find such a truck at the Department of Public Biodiversity and handed over the keys to the man of enhanced strangeness. He climbed in and drove off, popping the cassette he made into the sound system. Everyone followed the truck as it headed toward the trailer park. Soon, music began to emerge from the slowly moving truck. Generally, country music, but also occasionally classics like The Ballad of the Green Berets and Ghost Riders in the Sky. The town leaders were puzzled by this until they noticed people emerging from their trailers, tool sheds, and taverns. The people had a certain glassy expression and talked to themselves as they stumbled along. "I'm gonna go get me a job," said one. "I hear the carney is hiring." "I think I'll join the professional tractor pull circuit," said another. "Do you think I can make a living by signing up for medical experiments?" said a third. The denizens of the trailer park followed the truck as it drove slowly toward the edge of town. Soon, both they and it disappeared over the horizons, and the town leaders lifted a cheer. About an hour later, the truck returned, minus its entourage. "I led them all to the highway," said the man of enhanced strangeness as he alighted from the truck. "They're out there thumbing rides for any place but Hamlin. Now the trailer park is free for you to use in whatever way you want." "Marvelous," said one of the authorities, who was serving as a spokesperson. "Now that they're gone, we can commence with our plans for a third world refugee reorientation center. Thank you, thank you. Now, if you will kindly pay me the 100 pieces of gold you promised, I'll be on my way." "Well, Hamlin is striving to establish an economy that is based on human capital and not the mere exploitation of physical resources. And so, to this end, we'd like to offer you this coupon book, which entitles you to such services in Hamlin as free massages and seminars on releasing your inner child." The man of enhanced strangeness squinted his eyes. "You promised me 100 pieces of gold," he said, growing visibly angry. "Now pay up, or suffer the consequences." "If you wish to abandon your responsibility for making the world a more equitable place," clucked the spokesperson, "so be it. We will have to give you the official Hamlin IOU, which can be redeemed for a significant portion of its face value at many of the currency exchanges and liquor stores in the surrounding towns." The man of enhanced strangeness paused, then chuckled eerily and climbed back into the truck. Before anyone could stop him, he began to drive through all the neighborhoods of Hamlin. As he went, the truck played a weird, high-pitched music that no one could recognize. Soon, the children of Hamlin emerged from their houses and streamed from their playgrounds. With glazed looks, they milled about in the streets. The town leaders could hear the children talking earnestly to each other. "Free markets are the only sure way to give people the personal incentive to build a better society," said one child. "We must respect the rights of citizens to preserve the ethnic purity of our neighborhoods," said another. "Our only obligation as a society is to make sure everyone has a level playing field," said a third. As their children began to form tax protest groups and gun clubs, the town leaders sadly realized that all their years of careful social planning would soon come to nothing. The next day, they found the public address truck on the outskirts of town, but there was no sign of the mysterious man whom they had tried to swindle. The end. that concludes all of our politically correct bedtime stories. I hope you guys enjoyed these. What was your favorite story out of all of them? Do you want me to find other books like this to do videos like this, or where I'm reading to you guys? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this or any of my other videos, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you.